今天是10月12号，2025年。然后呢，因为是周日，所以纽约时报中文网是断更，就是首页是没有更新的。所以今天我会带大家一起看的 Irish Times， 就是爱尔兰时报关于亚洲太平洋板块的。首先的话，它的一个首评是这样子的，就是大新闻，就是印度会担心说中国会成为就是试图去制约在南亚这一块的一些力量。然后呢我会着重读这一篇，所以说呢，这4篇的话，就是通过标题来了解一下，就是中国的社交网站上，哪怕一个很小的一个失误，都能 end everything， 就是他就能我没有点进去看，我都能知道他应该说的就是删除账号，就像是近期的那个护城风啊，还有张雪峰啊等等的。然后第2条是 Mount Everest Resource，这个我不知道是啥。然后日本的下一届首相，然后也是一个日本第一个女首相。然后所以说那现在就开始来读一下这一篇的India wary of China's bid to tip balance of power in South Asia. Beijing's new diplomat forays in South Asia have stoked new that he fears of being encircled. In a small Dhaka apartment of Sheikh Abdul Muhammad Tara, the smiling face of Xi Jinping beams out from the cover of a book placed among the Korean on the Vietnamese leader's desk. The senior member of Bangladesh, Jamin Islami, a political party, an important contender in elections in February, received his copy of the Governance of China, the Chinese president's 5-volume collection of speech and writings. While visiting Beijing this year to meet Communist Party leaders, it was an excellent trip. They treated us as government dignitaries. This was the first time China has invited a senior leader from Japan, he said. China's visit to the Chinese capital is part of a broader campaign by Beijing to cut not only Bangladesh's political class but also leaders from the other countries surrounding India. China's regional arch rival to try to tip the balance of power in South Asia in its favor. Chinese officials have held at least 7 high-profile meetings with Bangladeshi politicians in the 14th month since the interim government of Muhammad Yunus, a former social financial entrepreneur, took office. This compares with 8 meetings in the last 5-year terms of Bangladesh's long-standing autocrat Sheikh Hasina. Beijing's officials, meanwhile, would held 22 high-profile meetings this year with their counterparts from Pakistan, on track to match last year's 30. Among the smaller countries surrounding India, Beijing has conducted at least 6 high-profile meetings with the Nepalese officials this year and at least 5 in Sri Lanka. Behind the diplomatic push is a deeper strategic contest for influence. Both China and India have ambitions to be global leaders, particularly in the developing world. China's geopolitical maneuvers keep India preoccupied, while securing Chinese access to the Indian Ocean. China sees what India considers to be its neighborhood to be perfectly fair game for Chinese activities and influence, said Daniel Markey, senior fellow at the Chinese and South Asian programs at the Stevenson Center, that it is as much China's backyard as it is Indians. For New Delhi, long-standing fears of being encircled by China have never seemed more real. Analysts say India's policy of drawing closer to the U.S. offset China's growing power has been in question since U.S. President Donald Trump took office and unexpectedly slapped a 50% tariff on imports from India. Last month, Trump announced a new 100,000 fee on H-1B visas widely used by Indian workers and tech companies. Beijing knows that India is distracted, said Amit Raja, a research fellow at the National University of Singapore Institute of South Asian Studies. In India, it's not a strong present appearance, so the Chinese may feel that it's a good time to exploit that region as that of the countries neighboring India. Delhi only has good ties with three smaller ones, Sri Lanka, the Maldives, and Bhutan, but China has a presence in both Sri Lanka and the Maldives, and it has been encroaching on Bhutan's borders. The dangers of the shifting region elegance struck home in May when Chinese supplied aircraft, missiles, and intelligence sharing helped Indians nemesis Pakistan shot down up to 6 Indian fighter jets in a brief border conflict, according to officials in Islamabad. Although Trump appears unconcerned by or even hostile to New Delhi, for U.S. allies in Asia, India's isolation will only open the way for China to further expand its influence in the Indian Ocean, the conduit for 80% of the world's maritime oil shipments. There is definitely a fear here that there is an alignment of adversarial powers around India, said Susan Singh, a lecturer in South Asian Studies at Yale University. And India is right to be concerned about it. Long Dahi Jaswal, spokesperson for India's Foreign Ministry, says that New Delhi's position is to keep a close watch on such developments and take action if needed. China's Foreign Ministry, meanwhile, says the countries of South Africa are China's close neighbor, and Beijing's aim to build a community with a shared future in the neighborhood, built on inclusiveness, security, and prosperity. It says its development of friendly relations with any country did not target any third party. In Bangladesh, Beijing's Trump's offensive has gained momentum since Hasina, a staunch Indian ally, was brought down by student protests last year. Chinese diplomats have built close relations with Yunnan's her replacement, whose first day visit to any country was to meet Xi in Beijing in March. In contrast, Yunnan's has yet to hold extensive talks with Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister, whom he met only once briefly on the sidelines of a regional meeting in Bangkok in April. Shafiqul Alam, Yunnan's press secretary, says the interim leader sees good ties with its western neighbor and asked New Delhi for the bilateral visit in December weeks before his visit to China was finalized, but unfortunately, we didn't receive a British response. Other Chinese diplomatic overtures in Bangladesh has included meetings by the Communist Party former International Department head Liu Jianchao with leaders of Bangladesh nationalist party, the country's largest political party. Liu and China's foreign ministry have also regularly met the Yunnan's government's foreign advisor Tauhid Hossain, while China's Minister of Commerce also visited Dhaka in June with a 250-strong business delegation, but China is casting its net much wider. In June, heckles were raised in New Delhi after Beijing hosted an inaugural trilateral meeting between Bangladesh, China, and Pakistan in Kunming, southwest China, at which the city nations agreed to cooperate on everything from investment to infrastructure and to set up a joint working group. Ishadar, Pakistan's foreign minister, told reporters in August that Sri Lanka might also join the intent. Against the backdrop of sweeping global change, the South Asian and Indian Ocean regions are undergoing on structural realignment. Chinese scholar Liu Zhongyi wrote in the Chinese Communist Party's Global Ties tabloid in June of the trilateral meeting. China's long-running rivalry with India dates back to a 1962 war over their Himalaya borders. In recent years, relations plumbed new lows after both sides suffered casualties in hand-to-hand border skirmishes in 2020. Tensions rose against in May over the use of Chinese weapons during the conflict with Pakistan. While nuclear armed, China and India have recently shot a rapprochement. Analysts say this is tactical, as both sides concentrate on dealing with Trump. China's cutting of India's neighbors goes for beyond weapons and includes promise or investment through Beijing's flagship Belt Road and road infrastructure program, according to analytics. While India lacks the capacity to drive regional economic development, it remains reluctant to see external countries assist its neighbors in advancing their economy and social progress, as it seeks to preserve its geopolitical dominance, said Liu in his Global Times piece. China is not trying to content India, says Li Mingwang, an international relations scholar at Fudan University in Shanghai, but India is actively trying to content China through its membership of US-led defense partnerships such as Quad, which also includes Japan and Australia. I think it is India's mindset to want to keep South Asia as India's own backyard, as India's sphere of influence, Lin says. But China's rise has really been a good opportunity for Bangladesh, for Sri Lanka, and for Nepal. He adds that right now, most of these South Asian countries try to develop close economic relations with China. Among China's many diplomatic maneuvers in South Asia, its inroads into Bangladesh are among the deepest and most trouble for New Delhi. India believes that the United government is too soft on Islamists, and its closeness to China could leave the strategically important northeastern Indian state vulnerable to broader tensions. The states are connected to the rest of India by the narrow Siliguri corridor known as the Kitchen Neck. During his visit to Beijing in March, Yunnan stoked these fears by describing India's northeast state as landlocked and therefore reliant on Bangladesh for access to the ocean. Bangladesh could also become an extension of the Chinese economy, he said. Bangladesh has received a project with China to develop the strategic Teesta River area near the border with India and has allowed China to modernize and expand the country's second largest shipping hub, the Bangalore port. It has also been in discussion with Beijing to acquire Chinese origin J-10 Vigorous Dragon fighter aircraft, the same once the Pakistani Air Force used to shoot down Indian fighter jets in May, and has sought China's help to potentially combat online misinformation allegedly coming from India. People close to United States. From our standpoint, we had to get close to China, says a senior Bangladeshi official, partly because this would put pressure on India. I'll point out the Bangladesh has always had a positive economic relationship with China. China is a major source of Bangladesh imports. China has provided Bangladesh with soft and commercial loans. Chinese investments are quite high in the government and other major sectors, say Dr. Gaurav Mojam, research director at the Center for Policy Dialogue. a Dhaka-based think tank. But what is changing is the political relationship show away from India, closer to China. In this regard, the US seems to be inadvertently assisting Beijing's diplomatic push at a trilateral meeting with Pakistan and Bangladesh. Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that China had zero tariffs on Bangladeshi products, creating opportunities for its development. In contrast, they pointed out the United States imposed a 35% tariff that is both unreasonable and unethical. The US tariff has since been lowered to 20%. Another important diplomatic initiative for China has been its encouragement over reconciliation between Bangladesh and Pakistan, Beijing's closest ally in the region, with which Bangladesh fought a brutal war of independence in 1971 with Indian support. Since the beginning of the year, Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Ajam Munir and other generals have welcomed Bangladesh top brass to Islamabad and Rawalpindi, offering defense cooperation and sales of military hardware such as the joint Pakistan-Chinese JF-17 Chandra fighter jet. In February, the two countries reopened direct trade links for the first time in more than 50 years, while in August, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Dar and Commerce Minister Jem Kamal Khan traveled to Dhaka in the first such high-profile trip to the Bangladesh capital in over a decade. Inas was a leader who inspires the world, said Dar, promising that direct flights between Pakistan and Bangladesh would resume. He and Inas vowed to revive the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, an intergovernmental body that has been paralyzed by the conflict between India and Pakistan. However, analysts say the Bangladesh-Pakistan relationship is still overshadowed by unsettled business from the war decades ago. During talks between the country's foreign secretaries in Dhaka in April, Bangladesh pushed Pakistan for an apology for its military atrocities in 1971 and a settlement for billions of dollars of claims arising from the country's spill. There is now an effort to re-engage with Pakistan, said Shafqat Moulder, senior fellow with the Bangladesh Institute of Peace and Security Studies. However, there is a widespread consequence that 1971 cannot be set aside for the betterment of the relationship. China's relationship with Pakistan, meanwhile, has grown even closer. In earlier August, Pakistan's become the first foreign arm to induct Chinese J-10ME attack helicopters into its fleet. The same month, China Shipbuilding, an offshore international company, launched the third of planned 800 class diesel electric submarines destined for Pakistan, designed to compete with India in the Azerbaijan Sea. Pakistan's Air Force is also in talks with China over acquiring more than 3,000 J-35 stealth fighter jets before the end of the 2026. China's weapon deliveries beef up Pakistan's capability as an effort to bring more parity in the Indian-Pakistan relations, said Yun Sun, director of the China program at the Steamer Center. Alongside its diplomatic efforts to reconcile Pakistan and Bangladesh, China has been mediating ties between Pakistan and Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. This has fed surging militancy along Pakistan's western borders, which has also killed Chinese workers and expulsion of almost 1 million Afghans from Pakistan. China has also publicly called on the Taliban to track down Wuhan separatist group operating from Afghan soil. In late May, China's Wang secured a promise by Islamabad and Kabul to exchange ambassadors and deepen Belt and Road cooperation. Yet, even as Beijing has been working to isolate New Delhi diplomatically, the two countries have been trying to improve their frosty relations in public. Wang visited Delhi in August, and 10 days later, Modi made his first visit to China in 7 years for a meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a regional security summit. There, Modi was pictured laughing and joking with Xi and Russia President Vladimir Putin. Xi told him China and India were partners, not rivals, and the two sides agreed to resume direct flights this month, which had been suspended since 2020. The rapprochement began even before Trump's election last year and was largely being driven by pragmatism between the two sides. Analysts say as India tried to move up the manufacturing value chain, attracting the suppliers of companies such as Apple in its Chinese components and expertise. This is despite already running a massive trade deficit with China of nearly $100 billion, kind of the 86 billion Europe. This is a more tactical, calculated desire to find a way forward on a set of activities, particularly trade and investment, says the Stimson Center Market. This is not India fundamentally rethinking its position and its concerns about China. Gavakar analyst Tom Miller say in a report that India was pursuing a strategic autonomy, cultivating relationships with many partners without aligning decisively with any one of them. China remains an advertised even if it can be a useful economic partner, Miller said. In Dhaka, the favorable newfound attitude towards China to Nahi-Islam, leaders of the National Citizen Party, which was started by the students who spearheaded last year's revolution, expressed the signs of the challenges facing India in winning back its old ally. Islam, who visited Beijing in August and was also awarded Xi's offers as a souvenir, says that for China, Bangladesh is part of a new political alignment and that Beijing is thinking way ahead. The Chinese gave priority to us because they think that we are representatives of a young political force, and also they think that we are the future, that we can be the future for Bangladesh. Islam says, copyright the Financial Times Limited 2025. Thanks for listening and hope your life with the happiness and joys. Take care.